Okay, today I'm going to show you how to insert various objects into the DayZ map. We're going to start off by putting in a general store into Mogilevka down the southern end here. There's a nice flat area for it. We're going to place a building here. We're going to put a vehicle wreck or two on the road and a pile of rubble out the front of the store just to give it some nice aesthetics. So we're going to use the instance deployable table today. It's the same method if you use the instance building table, except the instance building table has less variables for you to input. So if your instance building table works, then use that, but otherwise use the instance deployable table to insert your buildings. It's fine, it works flawlessly. There's a couple more fields to enter, but they're not difficult to figure out. So we'll go with that. General store, vehicle, pile of rubble. First things first, I need you to launch your Operation Arrowhead in vanilla mode, so no mods running, and we'll go from there. Hopefully you're able to load up ARMA2 in vanilla mode without a problem. As you can see, I've got no mods running. This is the way I want it to be. From here we're going to use the 2D editor. Some people use the 3D editor. This is my tutorial, so I'm going to be using the 2D editor as I find it easier to work with. So we can use single player and click editor. We choose Shanaris as that's the map, that's where Mogilevka exists, so we'll be going into there. So select Shanaris and select continue. Once it loads up, you'll have the loading screen. I've already done this once, so there's no loading screen for me. It brings you up to the map, pretty much centered over Novi Sabor each and every time. Must be fairly central on the map. Anyway, so we're working at Mogilevka down here. We're going to place a building in here, vehicle wreck, and rubble. So to start with, we're going to place a general store. To do that, we just make sure units is selected and just double click to place a unit. We change control to non-playable, and in the initialization box I'm going to paste this piece of code in. This code can be found in the description of the video. What this does is attach a building to this unit. Where it says class name goes here, we're going to change that to the general store, which the class name for that is land underscore a underscore general store underscore 01. So that's going to attach the building whose class name is land a general store 01 to that unit, wherever that unit is, not there yet. We want it to be around 125 degrees. I think it'll be facing the road, thereabouts. And we'll go with that. Now we can't preview it yet until we place a playable unit in. So I'll just double click again. And I'll just place in a playable unit, control player. So we can leave everything as default here. And we place him in. Now we can preview the map. And here I am across the road, and over here is a general store. So let's see what we're working with here. I got the azimuth a bit wrong, it's a bit skew-iff to the road, so we might be looking at 120 degrees, maybe. And if we come around here, it's way too close to the house, so we want to move it away from the house. We want to make it about 120 degrees, and we might move
We lost one!
Yeah, that happens. And we might also move it a bit away from the road. Okay, so escape, click abort, back to the editor. So back to this building, click it once to select it, or double click it. Change azimuth to 120. Now I want to move it away from the house a bit and back away from the road a bit. Seems pretty good to me now. Just easy enough to click preview and see how we went with that.
We lost one!
So it's looking better position wise. There's enough room next to the house to get around. I'd probably move it a little bit further away from the house. As for the angle, that looks pretty good, but I might make it about 118 degrees. I think it's closer to the road there than it is up here, so 118 I'll go with. Apart from that, everything else is looking fine. The stairs, everything's at the right level. Yeah, looks pretty good to me. Okay, so I'm just going to move it a little bit further away from the house and just change the azimuth a bit. So escape, abort. Okay, so away from the house, double click and change this to, I might go with 117. Why not? Why not? Let's preview it.
We lost one.
I think that's probably going to do for this. So this was the hardest bit out of the way. This was placing the building, which we placed as a unit and attached the building to it. But it's looking pretty fine from here. So now we want to go in and add a wreck here. Probably another one here. And some rubble here, and it's much easier to do these next steps. Okay, so hit escape and click abort again. And the next thing we're going to do is place in a vehicle wreck here on the corner of the building that's in place. So with units selected, again just double click where we want the vehicle wreck to go. We can always move it later on. This time we're changing side from blue 4 down to empty. Class, we are going to scroll down the bottom here and choose Rex. Unit is the pickup, which I believe is the Datsun utility vehicle. Let's try and get that right. Pickup. It looks good. Now direction. I think I want it facing the building, so I might try moving the azimuth to about 315. That looks good. And place it there. We've got a little representation of the wreck here, which looks pretty good. Gives us a good idea of where it is. It looks like it's pretty right to me. I wanted it right up against the fence. So from here we can just go in and preview it again, see how it's all looking.
One is dead.
Okay, so there's the wreck. It's not quite where it showed it on the map, and nor is it facing the direction I asked, but it's okay. Might be a bit unbelievable that a car ended up that way, so I will change the azimuth so as the front of the car is into the fence, and maybe move it that tiny bit up to the fence. So let's change that up. Abort. Double click the pickup. Change azimuth to opposite, about 140. Let's make it about 125. Why not? And a little closer to the fence. There we go. Let's have a look at how this is.
One is down.
Very good. I can believe that somebody ended up parked there in the end days while they tried to loot the store. Looks good. So let's place another vehicle wreck here just to create a little bit of a bottleneck, just to make it a bit more interesting. Okay, so escape, abort again. Now we double click again to place the next vehicle. It's going to be defaulted back to empty, still to empty, so we can just leave that as is. We're just going to change pickup to, I'm going to use pickup 2, which I think is the Toyota Hilux wreck. and we might make him face the other direction for a bit of fun. That looks alright, so we'll preview this, see what it's looking like.
We lost one.
It's on its side. It can definitely go closer to the middle of the road. It's off the road at the moment. So let's just move it in to the middle of the road. Escape, abort. And we can just drag it up there. Preview it.
One is down.
That looks good enough to me. You can still get a car through there, but it looks alright. Last things last, I want to place a pile of rubble right about here. So, abort again, and double click to add another unit. Still on empty. We're changing pickup this time to in fact we're changing Rex, I believe, to, is it static? No, here I am lost again. Ah dear. So right, it's under objects, and the unit we're after this time is simply rubble. Looks good. Don't think direction matters too much here. It might to you, it doesn't to me. So I've placed that in. Has a nice question mark there. Thank you very much. So let's preview that.
We lost one.
Okay, now personally I don't like how the rubble is sticking into the side there. I don't buy that, so I'm going to move it away from the edge of the building. On the corner there's fine, but let's just move it back towards the road a bit.
One is down.
Ta-da, looks pretty good. So we've added general store, Datsun Rec, Hilux Rec, and rubble on the ground. It's all looking pretty good. Okay, as you can see here, the stairs are higher than they should be. We're going to fix all this up when we actually place it into the instance deployables table. So this is all we need to do for the editor now, pretty much. We've just got to save this up so as we can get the coordinates. So escape, abort, and we want to save. We're not going to save it as a user mission. First of all, type in the name. I'm just going to call it Mogilevka Additions. Mogilevka Additions. Sounds good to me. We're changing user mission to export to single missions. Yeah, if you use user mission, you have a hard time finding the file that you save. So we're exporting it to single missions. And we click OK, and that's it saved. So we can now exit out of the editor and continue on from there. So now we need to find the file we've just saved. Normally if you're working with your default profile, you're just going to find it in your ARMA2 folder. Should be under Games, Bohemia Interactive, ARMA2, Missions, and here it is, Mogilevka Additions, Shinaris PBO. You can see I've got a few here. Now what I would normally do from here, because I have an extra tool installed, is right click on the PBO file and extract the PBO. We don't need to do that, and as it's a bit of a pain to install the PBO extractor to get it to work properly, we're not going to. We're just going to work around it. So what we do here, we've got the PBO file. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to edit it with Notepad++. If you don't have Notepad++, I highly recommend getting it. It makes life so much easier for all this kind of stuff. For anything you want to do that involves scripting or coding, Notepad++ is the only way to go. Notepad is fine for a shopping list, I guess, but anything else, Notepad++ is what you want. So I've right-clicked on the Mogilevka editions, and I am going to edit with Notepad++. Now, as you can see up here, we've got this information. This is because I didn't extract the PBO file. Instead, it's just viewing it, which is basically an archive. Now, because there's nothing else in this file except for those building placements, this is just the mission. There's no other file in the PBO, so that's why we're able to edit it as we are. So this information here has everything in it. To start with, we've got our Land A general store, which is attached to the soldier. So that is all in this section here. We're given the position and the azimuth, which is pretty much all we need, and the fact that it's Land A general store. The next we've got here is the recs under class vehicles. First one is the Datsun 01 rec that we placed in this block. We've got its position and its azimuth. The second one is, it was another Datsun rec, there you go, on its side. And that's in this block here with its coordinates and azimuth. And then the last one, the rubble, is right here with its coordinates. Now, the one thing we need to, or you need to understand with these coordinates is this is the coordinates the editor has given us, and it has given it to us as an X, Y, and Z. Now, why has it done it that way? Good question. It should have been X, Y, and Z, but it's not. It's X, Z, Y, and the direction. Now, with the instance deployables table, we put it in as an X, Y, Z with the azimuth at the beginning. It's pretty easy to convert it just by changing the numbers around. This height here, the altitude, the Z figure, in the editor, this number is meters above, or meters, feet, I'm not 100% sure, but above sea level. Whereas in the DayZ, in ARMA2 itself, in the DayZ game, the altitude when we place an object using the instance deployables table is the altitude above the current piece of ground. So in all honesty, we want the general store to be 0. We want it to be level with the ground, pretty much. We are going to drop it just underground a little bit. We're probably going to make it about 60 centimeters underground. That's going to make sure that the stairs and everything else start at ground level rather than starting somewhere in the air. And we've got the azimuth. So here it is for the Land A general store. Now, to go ahead and place this, we need to go into our SQL database. So from within the database here, we've got instance, we've got the instance deployable and deployable table. First thing we need to do is add the objects to the deployable table. Now, I've already done this, but I'll just go through and show what I've already done. So normally the deployable table just comes with, if I sort it by ID, it comes with tent storage, bear trap, the wire, the tank trap, and sandbags. So when you add your new item classes, I picked a new range. I started at 101 to make it easier. So the items we need to insert some new entries into this table. So just for giggles, let's just do it the same way I've done it. So the Land A general store as 101. You can leave Landshed out, but that's up to you. It's going to wreck the number order if you do. Now 103 is the Datsun 02 rec. 104 is the Hilux rec. Okay, let's substitute that then instead. So what have we got here? We've got the Datsun 01 rec and Datsun 02 rec. So let's make our Datsun 01 rec the Hilux rec instead. Why not? Just for simplicity's sake. And land misc rubble as 106. So you're inserting these, and this is how you'll insert anything that you want to use in future. So this is just as it can call it. It'll call ID 101. When it does, it'll insert a land A general store. If it calls 104, it'll insert a Hilux rec. So once you've got these fields in, go over to our instance deployable table, and we want to add them in here. Now I'll show you where I've added in my ones. It's all going to be mixed in here amongst everything. We can see the deployable ID 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106. But instead I'll just do it from scratch and delete them at the end. So what we want, we've got the IDs here. It's auto increment, so we can just go with the next one. You need to insert a unique ID. You can just make up anything. For mine, I think I did 5 6s and then a 1, and 5 6s and a 2 for mine, so it doesn't really matter. Deployable ID is the ID that we're inserting. Owner ID, just put 1 in. These don't get deleted as they don't have an inventory, so owner ID will be 1. Instance ID will be your bliss number here. Mine's bliss 907, so my instance ID is 907. World space, which is the converted editor value. Inventory we leave blank. Last updated you can leave blank. Created, it's up to you. I like to change that to when I've actually inserted it. So from here we are going to insert a new row. ID we leave blank. This is auto field. This is an auto increment value, so we just leave that and it will sort itself out. Unique ID, we need to make up a number here. I might just go with pretty much the same format I was using, except I'll go with 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 1. That's got to be pretty unique. Deployable ID. If we have a look at our deployables again, this is going to be the building. Land A general store is 101. So for the deployable ID, 101 from the drop down box. Owner ID, we just make that 1, that's fine. Instance ID from the drop down box 907, you shouldn't have any other option. There might be a 1 there, but yeah, you've got to use your instance ID. Again, you get that from your database name. Now the world space is here. What we can do to convert that is, as you can see, it's given us zeros as default values. The first one is our direction or azimuth, second is the X, third is the Y, and the last is the Z. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've got for the general store. Our direction for the general store is right here. The direction is azimuth 117. So back to our database, change this first 0 to 117. So it's 117 degrees is the direction. Now we need the X, Y, and Z. So let's have a look at our X value is 75120669. I like to trim it to 2 decimal places. These are meter values, so 06 is 6 centimeters. Let's not worry about the 6.9 millimeters at the end. Let's just scrap that altogether. So we just want to copy the X value to 2 decimal places. In this case, it's 7512.06. Copy that, and let's paste it over the first 0. Our second 0 is our Y value, which the editor has kindly swapped around with us. So that's our actual Z value with the editor. Here's our Y value here, 505035. Let's trim the 01 off. Copy that, and we paste that over the next one. Now the last one is the height. As I previously mentioned, this height here is above sea level. DayZ uses above ground, above the current ground level. So 0 is sort of fine. Trialing and erroring, you'll see that you need to move some buildings up and down a little bit, you know, up to a metre or so, or whatever works with you. So in this case, I happen to know that negative 0.7 is a pretty good value. That's 70 centimetres down, which makes sure none of the stairs start above ground. The back dock is fairly level to the ground. There's a little bit of a lip there. Everything else is pretty nice if we leave it as that. Inventory, leave as blank. Last updated is current timestamp. And created, I like to make it right now, so it's defaulted to the right date for me. Current time 11:32. Why not? It's there to use. Why not use it? So 11:32, and click go. Now we can browse the table and have a look at our new entry. It'll be right at the very end. Here it is, ID 1000188, unique ID, nice one I made, deployable ID 101, owner ID 1, instance, world space, inventory last created. Looking good. Looks fine. Let's put in the recs then. So we go and insert another row. ID, leave blank. Unique ID 72345 6. So I've given it a unique ID. Deployable ID, this time we're going to put in the Datsun rec, Datsun 02 rec, which is 103. ID is 103 for the Datsun rec. 103. Owner ID to 1. Instance ID, your bliss number, world space, okay, azimuth. What are we doing here? We are doing the Datsun 02 rec, are we not? Gee whiz. Yep, Datsun 02 rec. So Datsun 02 rec, azimuth 320. So bring this back up, and 320 for the first number. Now the XYZ values. X is 7539.28. Trim the rest. The Y value, again, is our last number here, 5059.99. Trim the rest. And our Z value, this time it's a car on a road. The road and the surrounding area is very flat. I'm going to leave altitude as 0 for the vehicles, and that's pretty fine for your wrecks and rubble to leave it as 0. It's really only the buildings that you're going to have to mess around with the height. Inventory blank, last updated current timestamp, created right now 11:34. 11:34 looks good, and go. And browse again. Let's go to the last page, and we've got our Datsun rec, which is deployable ID 103 with all its entries. Looking good. It looks like a real one, doesn't it? Look at these other world spaces. It looks very real. Inventory blank, last updated created. When I say inventory blank, I mean the 2 square brackets. Okay, pretty easy. Now we're after the 103, the Hilux rec, which is 104. So we're inserting another row. ID blank, unique ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Deployable ID is, what's our Hilux rec? 104. Deployable ID 104. Owner ID 1, always 1, instance ID, your bliss number, world space, start with the azimuth. Let's have a look, we're on the Hilux rec, are we not? Here we go, Hilux rec. Azimuth 125. 125. X value is 7532.53, trim the rest. Y value is at the end, 5064.86, trim the rest. And altitude 0. It's a vehicle, it's fine to be right on ground level. In fact, it would look a bit funny if it was sunken under the ground a bit. Created right now, 11:36. This created is completely optional, your call. Just makes it a bit easier for me to get rid of or to amend stuff that I've changed. I can think to myself, that's right, I added it on this day at around this time. Rah, rah, rah. Insert. I'll click go. Inserted, okay. Let's browse it again. Go to the end. 104. Oh, looking pretty good. Rightio, and the last we have is the rubble, so we're inserting one last row, and it's this one here. So our land misc rubble ID blank, unique ID 777774. Deployable ID, we want the land rubble, which is 106 for me. Owner ID 1, instance ID, mine is 907, world space, azimuth first. We have azimuth of 210. X value is 7522.77. Our Y value for the land rubble is 5040.44. And altitude I'm leaving as 0. With the rubble, I think it will be a bit higher than it was when we previewed it. It's up to you if you want to bring it down. I'm just leaving it as 0. Inventory, blank, current timestamp created, optional, change it to the current time, 11:38. And click go. And that's it. So we'll browse, we'll have a look at our 4 entries and see how they look. So the ID was auto-filled. We picked the unique ID. I chose to go with a range of 77771 and move up from there. Deployable IDs 101, 103, 104 and 106. 101 Land A General Store, 103 Datsun Rec, 104 Hilux Rec and 106 Land Misc Rubble. Owner ID, we've just left it as 1. It doesn't matter, these will not be deleted as they do not have an inventory. I don't know exactly how that works or if that explanation is correct, but yeah, these do not delete on cleanup, on table cleanup. So owner ID is 1. Instance ID, same as all your other instance IDs. World space, azimuth X, Y, Z, azimuth X, Y, Z, azimuth X, Y, Z, azimuth X, Y, and Z. Inventory all blank. Last updated and created. Good one. So now we'll go into the game and see how it looks from there. And one last thing to show you before we go into the game is the instance building table. If you're going to use that instead of the instance deployable table. With the instance deployable table, we're asked for a unique ID, an owner ID, and inventory. With the instance building table, we're asked for an ID, which is auto increment, so you leave that blank. Building ID, which is your this ID number here if you're using the building table instead. The building table is exactly the same. You've got an ID and a class name. So the ID it's asking for here, building ID, is the ID of the building in the table, and the class name there, it's exactly the same as a deployable table, except it's just for buildings. So you would leave ID blank. Building ID would be the ID of the class name in your building table. Instance ID is your bliss number. World space, as I've explained, and the created table, which is default to 0. You can update that yourself. So it doesn't ask you for a lot of other info. The info it does ask you for is all straightforward, and I've already covered it with the instance deployable table. So here we are in the beautiful farming community of Mogilevka, just on the outskirts. Sorry about the lighting, but in a bit of a rush to get this tutorial done, so I'm not going to wait for dawn. So we're coming in from the south, up the main road, and you should be able to see just up here, there we go, there's the supermarket right in front of me there, just past this house. So let's have a look at how we've done here. See if I can't get myself killed in the process. Alright, so there's already the car here from the DayZ editing. There's our rubble, our store, our Datsun wreck, and our Hilux wreck. And if we go into the store, we will see that it is spawning objects. There's nothing you have to do to make it spawn the objects. It'll just do that by itself, so long as it's one of the buildings that's in the DayZ code to spawn objects.